Just a quick note before we dive right into the interview. Our guest for this interview, Kristina Paltén, has also created an online course on goal setting and confidence for our Learning Academy on the IPS project. If you have ever wanted to learn the secrets of an ultra runner, 2-time world record holder, and the first woman to run 1,144 miles alone through Iran, then take a look at the description of this episode to find a link where you can read the full course description, watch some of our preview lessons, and read the countless positive reviews from other students. If you decide even after enrolling that the course is not for you, don't worry, there is a 30-day money-back guarantee. So in the end, you have absolutely nothing to lose. With that, let us go on to the interview. Welcome to the Inner Picture Stories podcast. My name is Jellis Vaas, your host and the founder of Inner Picture Stories, the educational platform on life. I hereby invite you to come on a journey with me. In each episode, we will dive into the life of an inspiring person seeking lessons of wisdom about life and the world we live in. Answers that you can take away and use in your own life. It's true that no one ever said life would be easy, but it's also true that no one ever said you had to do it alone. So get ready and let the journey begin.
I mean, one thing that's really important for me is the love of life. I mean, we have this valuable time. We don't know how much time we have. And I think if I live my life being scared of a lot of things and end up dying, not doing what I wanted to do, then it's waste.
This is episode 029 with Kristina Paltén. What's up, everyone? Welcome to a new episode here on the IPS Podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you here. First of all, this is the first videotaped episode on the IPS Podcast, which is something we plan to do much more in the future. If you're listening to this and would like to watch the interview instead, you can find a link to the video in the description of this episode. Having said that, let me introduce you to our guest for this interview, Kristina Paltén. Kristina is an ultra runner and 2-time world record holder, as well as a lecturer from Sweden who has done some extraordinary things in her life. To name a few, in 2013 and 2014, Kristina set 2 world records for running on a treadmill. In 2015, she became the first woman to run alone for 1,144 miles through Iran, a feat that was featured in a documentary, which I can highly recommend you checking out. The documentary is titled Alone Through Iran, 1,144 Miles of Trust, and you can watch it on Amazon. Her run through Iran got worldwide media attention and left a positive message out in the world that the prejudices we have about other cultures are often wrong. In 2017, she delivered a TEDx talk about her run in Iran titled 1,144 Miles of Trust. And in 2018, she delivered a second TEDx talk titled How to Dance with Life, which was received with a standing ovation. Both of those talks can be found in the show notes of this episode. There is a long list of more extraordinary things she has done in her life, but to go through all of them, yeah, that will take me a while. However, in the interview, you will certainly hear more of them. Now, about 3 years ago, Kristina appeared on the IPS Podcast in episode 013. In that episode, we talked about her various adventures, such as her run through Iran and her 2 world records. There we talked extensively about the lessons she learned from those adventures about goal setting and confidence. So definitely check out that interview to learn more about those topics. Now, in this interview, I speak with Kristina about living a happy and meaningful life. I would say that Kristina is also an incredible example of someone who lives according to her heart. That is someone who lives as close as they can to who they are and what they value and care about in life. So, in this interview, you will have the chance to learn the thoughts, lessons, and knowledge of lecturer, ultra runner, and world record holder Kristina Paltén on living a happy and meaningful life. Please enjoy. Kristina, a warm welcome to the show. It's so awesome to have you on the show again.
It's wonderful to be here again with you, Jelly. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So if you can believe it, the last time that that I interviewed you on the podcast was in 2018. So that was 3 years
Wow.
ago. Yeah. I know.
Been a while.
It's been a while, exactly. Now, in that interview, we talked a lot about some of your adventures, like the run in Iran that you did, but also a lot about confidence, goal setting, and following your heart.
Mm.
In this interview, I actually like to talk more on the two topics of, as you know, on living a meaningful life and living a happy life. If I look at you, you are someone that I think lives pretty close to a meaningful life and a happy life. I'm not saying that it has been easy life for you, right? But
Nope.
yeah, but I feel like you're someone, just as with the previous interview on confidence and goal setting, you're an extremely amazing example of someone who has a lot of knowledge on this. And I also think on those two topics. First of all, I'd just like to start the interview actually with a question that I asked as a last question that I asked in the previous interview, where you didn't had a clear answer on, and I'm just curious to ask it now. So 3 years ago, I asked you if there were any objectives, goals, or any new adventures that you were, planning. Back then, you didn't have a clear answer on it, but I'm curious, between 2018, 2021, has there been any of these things?
Yes, actually it has. And I think it's wonderful to see how life is kind of unfolding. Because after my run through Iran, actually there are three things. And after my run through Iran, there were two things that I was really curious about. And one was the insight when I ran through Iran that, okay, they are just doing it the opposite way. I mean, in Sweden, there we have racists who are afraid of Muslims. And in Iran, there are Muslims who are afraid of Western influence. So, I mean, for me, that's the same thing. We're all humans. We are afraid of what's different. We just put in another direction. But that doesn't mean that all people are so-called racists. And I think racist is maybe a too strong word, but in lacking words for describing it better, I use racism. And it turns out that I met a scientist who is doing research about values. And I had seen the pattern that racism and homophobia and, having a negative attitude towards women always goes together, hand in hand. And that doesn't matter if you're a Swede or a European who is having these values of, you're not a racist against your own people, then you're a racist against it's towards someone else. But and it goes if you're an Iranian who is having these values. And those values are always linked together. Not always, but they are very often linked together. And the researchers doesn't know why. So I think that's very interesting by some reason. So I decided that I'm going to write a book, and it will be a thriller.
Wow.
It will be taking part in the area where I'm living now, because one of the dreams I had when I was I've been having a dream for a long time, and that is to buy a little red house in the corner of a forest, and just live there, peace and quiet life, and do adventures out of there. And actually I did buy that house.
Right.
And it was really exciting, because it was just when the pandemic started, and since I was a lecturer and no one wanted lectures during the pandemic, of course. So I had no income, and to buy a house when I'm having no income, trying to go to the bank and say, hey, can I borrow some money?
That's a brave move.
Yeah, well, they didn't want to give me some money. Of course. So I had to invest all my savings in this house and trust that it would work out. Because this has been my lifelong dream to live in a house like that. So it was really causing me a lot of trouble because, I mean, I like having control in one sense, but at the same time, I value trust. And in the project buying this house, my dream house, it was about, okay, can I have trust towards life? If this is my dream, I guess there is a purpose why I'm having that dream. And if I'm fulfilling it, will then the universe help me? Because I did spend all my money on the investment. And actually, it has worked out.
It has?
Yes.
Yeah.
So far, it's been a year now. And yeah, it's working out better than expected.
Because you moved somewhere to the north of Sweden.
Well, no, I was born in the north, but now I live,
Okay.
it's outside Stockholm in the archipelago. So I'm living on an island. Actually, this community is based on 10,000 islands where I'm living right now. So it's
I've heard
a
something about that.
wonderful place. Yeah, there's 24,000 islands actually outside my door, so to say. And I love kayaking, so it's wonderful.
That's perfect.
But yeah, and I mean the forest there is wonderful, and there are a lot of small lakes and the ocean, and it's the perfect place for me. So I'm really happy for it. But like you said, life isn't always easy because I'm fulfilling my dreams. So I think fulfilling dream comes with, well, having courage, and having courage means to be scared sometimes, which I was. But that brings me also to the third thing, and that is, as I did settle down, because now I decided that I want to live there, and I want to live there hopefully until the end of my days. I also wanted to engage in the society where I was living. And one thing that I was thinking about when I was running through Iran is, if you consider Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I mean, needs of safety, the needs of food, economy, etc. There's only the top level, which is self-fulfillment, which is driven by love or meaning or values like that. The basis levels are driven by deficiency or by fear, actually. For instance, having an economy is actually fear-driven. And I started to thinking about societies. I mean, in general, I would say that Sweden exists because we are going to create a good economy so that the inhabitants of Sweden can live a good life. But is economy good enough? I mean, when individuals have a good economy, it doesn't create more happiness to have more money.
It's true.
Money creates, I mean, happiness in a kind of way when you fulfill your basic needs, like having a place to live, having food, having clothes on your body, things like that.
Yeah, safety.
Yeah, but becoming richer doesn't make people more happy. So I was thinking, is it the same for societies? If Sweden is having more money, would Swedes become more happy? Or what happens? And well, my thesis, or my idea, I would say, is that, okay, we need to switch from economy, based society towards a society that is creating meaning and that is creating sustainability. And it's a little bit hard to describe, but if I take me as an individual, I was an engineer working at Ericsson, making a lot of money per month. But I didn't know what to do with that money because, I mean, I had everything I needed. So I quit my job and I ran through Iran. And that was much more meaningful to me than to make more money and just put it on a bank account or invest it somewhere. So I think, will we have more happy societies if we just keep growing our BNPs more and more and more and more? I don't think so. I think we need to find something new. And I think that new is a meaning on a societal level. So actually, what I want to create in some respect is global welfare system based on a economy that's related to our ecology, because economy isn't that today. I mean, we are, well, destroying our earth right now. So that's kind of a pretty big thing to do. And I don't know if I will be done within my lifetime. But the way that I've started to addressing it now is that I became involved in the politics in the place where I'm living, because I found, okay, if I want to act on that global level, I need to start local to learn. And so actually, on Monday, I'm going to take on a new role, and that is the guy who was the main, face forward for the Green Party in the community where I'm living. He's quitting right now, and I'm going to replace him. So without much political experience or knowledge about the environment, I'm going to be the face forward for for my party in my community, and that's really a big challenge.
Yeah.
And it gives me headaches and stomach aches, but at the same time, it's really engaging, because now I can spend almost full time on things that I'm interested in and things that engage me. And that was a very long answer to your question.
No, it's a good answer. And this is an actual real step towards that dream that you were having, right?
Yes.
And you're starting on Monday.
Yep.
Yes. What is the first day like? Do you know?
4 different meetings.
4 different meetings?
Yep. So I'm going to meet the head in the community and
right.
The other, I mean, I don't know the term in English for those, but the ones that I'm supposed to collaborate with. And then I'm going to hold my first meeting with the members in the party in the evening. And then on Tuesday, I will be ordförande, what's it called? The one who's taking the decision.
The judge or something?
Yeah, kind of I'm going to sit with, it's not a judge. I mean, it's similar to a judge, but it's
someone with a hammer.
Yeah, with a hammer, and I don't know how to do it. So right now I'm reading a book, what to say and when to do like this. So.
Yeah, is there how have you been preparing for this actually, if you have?
Well, I'm talking to people, I read, and I'm also going to say in that meeting, okay, sorry, I'm a beginner, please help me, because I don't really know how to do this. So, and I guess I will learn.
Of course, right? You will learn, and I think you will actually do wonderful.
I hope so too, and I hope that, being not politically active before, I hope that will raise other questions compared to those who have been politically active for a long time.
Yeah, I'm sure it will actually. Yeah.
But I think it's interesting to see that, it's been 3 years since we talked. It's been 6 years since my run, and
it's been 6 years.
Yeah, and these things, they were, the 2 things, the one with the racism, the homophobia, and the patriarchy, so to say, that was born during the Iran run. And also the idea about a global welfare system based on a economic that's taking the environment into aspects. That was also born during that run. So it has kind of matured for 6 years, and now it's here. Now it's time to do it.
Well, big dreams and goals take time, right? To unfold and become clearer. So 6 years, yes. Well, I'm super excited actually to see how this is gonna, unfold in some years, to be honest. So yeah. Actually, 3 things that I wrote down on objectives or goals or adventures that you've been having between 2018 and now were your house. That was a big thing. You're right. Then there were actually 2 more that I was curious to just ask after. Your wedding. You got married, right?
Yeah, that's exciting too.
That's a big adventure too, right?
Absolutely.
How did the wedding go? Like, I mean, and congrats on it too.
Thank you. Well, it was wonderful, and it was a little bit. It was exciting because the house that I bought, we had no plumbing, we had no water. So actually, and I
Very
was
adventurous
building.
wedding.
Yeah. Well, I was building everything myself together with friends because I mentioned I didn't have much economy, so I tried to make it as good and as financially good as possible. So we had water and the bathroom, and the plumbing was done on Wednesday when we got married on Saturday. But also, I think it was very wonderful in the sense that I've been married before, and my husband has also been married before. And I think, I mean, having a marriage is traditionally it's a lot of tradition around it. But both him and me, we already had those traditional weddings. Don't care about it. Just do whatever we want to do.
Just care about the
And
fun.
yeah, about the fun part. And I mean, we cared about the traditions that we like. So we had a priest and so on, but we had a wedding in my garden. It was outside. We were, making small tables so that people could sit on the ground. We were not having, like regular tables with chairs and things like that. No, bring your own blanket, put it on the ground, sit and eat by a small table so you can have somewhere to put your plate. And also in the evening, we did get married around lunchtime. So it was the ceremony and then lunch. And then, people were saying a lot of beautiful things. And then we a big fire in the garden so that people could sit around the fire and just talk. And also there's a lake where I'm living. So if you wanted to swim, you could go swimming. And I
Nice.
think we had 13 tents in our garden so that people could sleep in the tent and, just drink as much wine as you want to. Jump into the lake, take a swim, sit by the fire, and sing a song, have a good time, enjoy the breakfast the morning after. It was so much love. It was great.
Yeah, I saw some of the photos on Facebook, and they looked very. It looked like a very fun time, actually. So yeah, congrats again.
Thanks. The joy of creating my own, what I care about, what I find amusing and giving meaning, etc. I mean, not caring about what other things. That was great.
Yeah, because a lot of times when I see a wedding happening, I've attended a few this year, and it sometimes feels like it's not about the couple, but just about making an impression to other people. Like the couple who are getting married a lot of times seems totally stressed out and are not enjoying it at all. And I'm like, I don't want to get married like that.
No.
I mean, I'm not saying everyone is getting married like that, right? But marriage or getting married seems for a lot of people very stressful. Or when they talk about it, you know. Yeah. So it's nice. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I think that's a pity because it should be a celebration of love in my mind.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
A third thing that I also saw that has been happening to you this year was actually your heart. I also saw something that you had something going on there, and I was also curious to just ask, like, what was happening?
Yeah, and that's a very good question because I think meaning and is very related to life and death, and life and death goes closely together. And in the light of death, life is very crisp, very clear. I've been working with my house, and for instance, I was cutting down 30 trees, making it into so I could burn it, and it's a lot of physical work. So my hands were numb, and they were that for 2 months, and I couldn't understand why. So when I went to the doctor and asked him, what's the problem? What can I do about it? And then he just, for no reason really, he listened to my heart. And then he said, I want to check your heart. And he did a EKG.
Like a scan?
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah,
scan.
it's like the electrical wires that you get. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess you did the same.
Yes.
Yeah, several times. Yeah, he did that, and he found some strange things, and he consulted a colleague, and it was so interesting to sit in the waiting room, and they came and looked at me and, is it her? Yeah, it's her. And then I understood that something was wrong. So they thought that I had arrhythmia.
A heart arrhythmia, yeah.
Yeah, so they told me okay, you shouldn't go home now. You should not go home and have dinner. You should go directly to the hospital and go to the ambulance entrance because we need to diagnose you to see what's wrong. And it was kind of a shock. I mean, I just wanted to go take my bike and go home for dinner. So I went to the hospital instead. And there I stayed for, 4 hours or something like that, but they didn't find anything wrong. But it's been months of investigations. And since I'm an ultramarathon runner, I do have a resting pulse of 30. So it means
wow.
all machines goes crazy when they try to measure my values.
I guess so, right?
Yeah. And also the EKG, the electrical measurements, they show a lot of funny things. So if you're a normal doctor, you think that I'm severely ill, but it turns out that most of the things are, for instance, I have my heart is a bit enlarged due to my intense running, which in one sense is normal because it's a muscle. And if you practice with a muscle, the muscle grows, but that gives a higher risk for arrhythmia. So after a couple of months of investigations, there's only one thing remaining. The doctors have kind of excluded all different kind of things. And so I'm almost well, but it's interesting to be exposed to what is going to happen in the end, which is my own death. Because that really makes me think what is important in my life and how do I want to live it. But now I did a test because I have something that's called a long QT time. And QT time, it's the time from the big bump in the electrical discharge until a smaller bump.
Yeah, until the resting beat.
Yeah, and this one is related to the pulse. And since my pulse is so low, it's very difficult for the doctor to say if this long time is a problem or not. But there is a disease which is named LQTS, and it means that you're having a long QT syndrome. And QT is the time from this big bump to this bump. And I have a very long QT time, but it might end on my running. But it could also be a disease that is that you inherit. And it comes from that I'm born in the north of Sweden, and in the north of Sweden, it was not much people. So there is a certain disease here and in other parts of the world that gives a long QT time. And what might happen is that you just fall dead. And that's it. So I might end up having like you are having an ICD.
ICD?
Because
or a pacemaker?
Yeah. Well,
there's two.
Yeah. Might be both because the normal treatment is to give beta blockerare. I don't know that term in English.
Medication?
Yes.
Yeah. I actually take that too.
Yeah, but if I would get that kind of medication and my pulse is 30, that medication is decreasing.
Yep.
Yeah. So then I might need a pacemaker to make my heart beat at all. So, but I might need an ICD as well, because the problem with the disease is that the heart just stops and then you're out. So something needs to start it.
Yes. So that's exactly what I kind of had, right? I mean, the cardiac arrest, that's where your heart just stops.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it might also be that I'm not having this kind of disease. But I did a test in September, and it will show if I carry this gene that's creating this disease. And if I'm not having this gene, I might still have the disease. But if I'm having the gene, it's very, very high likelihood that I'm having the disease. So I will have the result in December, and then I will know more. But nothing is certain. And I think in one way, of course, I'm scared sometimes, because I love life and I want to live for a very long time. I have lots of things that I want to experience. But at the same time, I think, I mean, having this probable problem focus on what's important in life.
Yeah, it's sort of
And I think it's a very good reminder. And I think it's a very healthy reminder, because it's so easy to just run around and think that life is going to go on for an eternity, and it won't.
Well, I'm happy that you're able to actually look at it like that, because I could imagine, like, because you sport so much, you move so much, that this must have been a real shock actually to hear that there was, or that there could potentially be something, with your heart.
Yes, it was. And I must say it was a shock, because I consider myself as being extremely healthy and strong. And that's the image I have of myself. And then suddenly someone, an authority, a doctor, tells me, no, you're not. And then my image is turned into, okay, I'm ill. I might die. I mean, whoa, I'm having a heart problem. It's not it's not having broken my finger or something like that. It's my heart. It's really important. And it was interesting to see how depressed I got after having that notice. But then when I came to a cardiac specialist, and she told me, no, you're not ill. You might have a problem, but you're not having the problem they first thought I did. Then I was almost angry with her, because I had changed my image of myself from healthy and strong to ill. And then as a sick person, I was allowed to cry. I was allowed to, do whatever. And everyone would feel sorry for me. And it felt good that people were comforting me. And suddenly she took away that identity, and I had to be healthy again. And it was interesting to see that I was angry with her. But then I realized that after a while, of course, that, okay, but the best thing is if I'm healthy. But right now, I don't know if I'm having that disease or not. But in my mind, I have decided, okay, I am healthy. I might have a heart problem. And if I do, that's just a heart problem. I'm still a healthy and strong person.
That's good. That's good, because it's not because you have, a disease or something that you're weak, or that you
No.
can't do things in life. The way how I kind of started to look at it, like my heart problem, is just that it's an extra challenge, and it's kind of just there as a reminder mainly, but it doesn't, or I will not let it stop me from doing anything that I kind of want to do. Because it's very easy to start looking at yourself that you are unhealthy and weak because you have something, but that's kind of the story that you start to create then, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to change it to something empowering.
Exactly. And and being aware about the story I'm telling about myself, mainly to myself. And if it's not good for me, the story that I'm telling, well, then change it.
I will ask you when, December arrives, what the results were, because I'm curious
Yeah.
to know about it.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, those were actually three things that I also wanted to ask you about: your house, your wedding, and your heart. So thanks for sharing also about those things, and the other adventures or things that are coming up this year for you on Monday.
Yeah, yeah.
So in this interview, like I said in the beginning, I want to talk about living a happy and meaningful life. Now, I actually divided those two topics into three categories. And the three categories are health, and health means also physical health and mental health. Wealth, and wealth certainly means money, but wealth also means to me freedom and doing what you love. That's also, having that's a wealth, right? And then
Yes.
the last one of categories is meaning.
Okay.
When I think about those two topics, living a happy and meaningful life, those three kind of come to my mind. And I had some questions on each one of those topics. Now, I'm going to give you the choice to choose just which one you want to start with. Do you want to start with health, wealth, or meaning?
Actually, I think it's good to start with health because I think it's a basis.
Yeah, that's true. So let me ask you a few questions just on mental health. So I would say that you're really good at doing things your way. You're not being, stopped, I feel, by anyone or by thoughts. Like you always seem to manage to find your way to finally do something. I'm first of all just curious to ask you if you've always been like that. Have you always been good at that, at doing things your way?
I wouldn't say so. I don't know if my friends would say differently, but I would say as a child and as a young adult, I was trying to conform to what's normal in society. For instance, now we talked about my wedding, but my first wedding was really traditional with a white dress and a wedding cake and the dance and everything like that. And I never questioned, for instance, I mean, in my mind, I thought, okay, let's grow up, get an education, find a job, find a husband, have some children. I mean, that's what everyone is doing. So, of course, I would do that. I never questioned that. But in one way, luckily, I had a terrible divorce and I wasn't able to have children. So, which was a sorrow and it was painful. But in a way, or actually I was able to have children, but it didn't work out the way I wanted to. But so you can discuss if it was a choice or if life pushed me in a certain way.
Life was giving you a message.
Yeah, maybe life was giving me a message. I hope so. And I think so. I want to believe so. And so I would say until my divorce and everything around that happened, I wasn't very conscious about my choices. But when I stood there being divorced and not being able to live that kind of life that everyone was living, then I had to make a choice. And then my choice was different. And I think, it started with small steps, and then I think it just got more and more crazy in a sense. And I like that.
Yeah, because you made a very, okay, it was small steps, I guess, right? Because the first small step, you could say, was your first kind of run? Or what you say was the first small step?
Well, actually, I think it was when I was in school, when I was 16 years old, I was dreaming about traveling from Moscow to Beijing with the train, the Trans-Siberian train. And I thought that if I do well in school and when I quit school when I'm 19, I will reward myself with this journey. But actually, I jumped out of school because I was having too much pressure on myself and I couldn't stand it. So I did find another way around. So maybe I'm doing that more than I'm thinking of. But I never quit school in the traditional way. So I was a little bit hard on myself, and I thought that okay, if I didn't complete my studies, then I shouldn't do this trip. But after this, the divorce, I was 32 years old. I was having a lot of money in my bank account, and I had saved my vacation for if I would have children, so I would be able to be with them a lot. And suddenly I was standing there without a husband, no children, and a lot of money on my bank account. So what do? Well, why not fulfill that old dream that I didn't do when I was 19?
All right.
So yeah, so then I headed off, and it was wonderful. I packed my backpack with 10 books in English, and then I sat down on the train and went all the way to Beijing, and then I traveled around in China for a couple of months. And it was a bit unusual to do that at the age of 32. So the people I met along the trip, they were either 21 or 65. So it was a lot of fun.
Wow, all right. So instead of doing it at 19, you ended up doing it when you were 32.
Yeah, I'm a bit slow.
But you did it. Like you did it eventually, something that you've wanted to do for a while. And it's about that, right?
Yes.
Because if you think more or further about this, like, do you know if something else comes to mind, what more has helped you to become better at being yourself and not letting the voices of other people stop you? Because this is a very tricky thing for a lot of people. A lot of people are very, very easily influenced by the voices of other people, especially you could say your parents. But does something come to mind? What has helped you to become even better at that?
Yes, and that is spend time on your own and reflect. Actually, turn off your cell phone, throw away the computer, go to a cabin alone. I mean, actually do a vipassana meditation, for instance. You're alone for 10 days and you can even look other people in the eyes. And it's really interesting to see. I mean, if I'm really in that way disconnected from what I think other people want from me, then it's more easy to clearly see myself, what is me and what is others, and what is my thoughts about things that I think that I have to fulfill, which is mainly my thoughts. It's not what no one else ask it from me. And for instance, during this trip, I think I was lucky when I took the Trans-Siberian Railroad to China, because at that time, it was in the 2005, I went into parts where people don't speak English. So I had no one to talk to. And the Chinese thought that I was funny no matter what I did. So I cannot conform to the environment. So because no matter what I do, I will be different. So why not just do whatever I want to do? What makes me happy? So time for reflection and also spending. In this sense, I wasn't alone during the trip. There were people around me, but I couldn't communicate. And I was alone in the sense that, okay, let's behave the way I want to behave or do what I want to do because I'm strange no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah, so mainly this gave you some time to kind of just turn inwards without being distracted by anyone around you because you couldn't talk to them, right?
Yeah. Which was very good because I remember I wrote 2 or 3 diaries during this trip.
Right.
And I noticed that there were things that came back to me all the time. And for instance, I felt good if I was challenged, if I did challenge myself, or if I was on an adventure, or if I did set aside time for reflection, or if I had a really heart-to-heart meeting with other people. And it was really valuable for me to find those things because I think those things were things that actually described me, what I need. I needed physical activity, for instance, to feel well. And just to discover, okay, this is me. This is what I need to feel good. Just to become aware of that. That was a key for me at that part of the life.
I've did quite some solo travel trips by myself too. And yeah, I mean, of course, it's not for everyone, but it's something that if you do end up doing it, it can be very life-changing. And it certainly has been for me. It has been for so many people that I talk to who have gone on a solo trip. Yeah, it's something that I would recommend to anyone almost. It's an education that you just can't get in any other way, right?
Yeah, I
Going on a
agree.
solo trip.
And being on a solo trip, I mean, when you're traveling to other cultures, you also see a lot of things. I mean, you question what's normal, which I think is good, because it's very easy to be blind at home and think what's normal is normal, but it's normal in my life. It's not normal in China, for instance.
Yeah, it's totally
So
different there.
Yeah, and then I can find, oh, that's a good thing that they're doing there. Okay, why not adopt that?
So we're gonna jump from one question to a very different one.
Okay.
I'm curious to know, because you've competed, you've completed actually a lot of big goals in your life. You could say, your 2 world records, big goal, your run in Iran, the various kayak trips that you've done for days, and just so many things. And while not everyone listening might be planning for a big adventure, everyone in life has, whether they're conscious about it or not, goals in life, in their personal life or in their business or in their career life. I mean, if you think back, have there been any goals where you almost mentally burnt out from?
Yeah, and it's in different ways. I would say after my world record on 48-hour runs on the treadmill, I couldn't write for a week.
You couldn't write?
No, I couldn't spell. I had no idea how to spell things. So, and for 2 months, I didn't run. I had no lust of running at all. So I think, yeah, and actually on the run through Iran also, I mean, I'm an introvert person in the sense that I gain energy when I'm alone. And in Iran, the guest is considered as the friend of God. So that means no one wants to leave you alone. Everyone wants to invite you.
Perfect for the introverts out there.
It's a bit challenging.
Yeah.
I mean, this was what I really was hoping would happen. And it was such an incredible love storm. And it was so much friendliness. And I just wanted to dive into it and just let it happen. And at the same time, it costed me, I mean, on my mental energy. But I think to achieve big goals and to go where you want to go, it's okay to pay a price for a certain amount of time, because otherwise you won't get there probably.
True. There will be a prize in the way. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a prize both in the 48-hour world record and in the Iran run. But the prize was so much well worth it. But I think what's important to remember is to give myself space and time afterwards to heal, to recover, because we as humans can experience a lot of stress, but we cannot be without recovery. So we need to. So actually, when I came home from Iran, I almost ended my relationship with my partner, the guy I'm married to now, because it was just leave me alone. I don't want to be with you.
Seen enough people.
Yeah, and he had been waiting for me for 2 months. It was, oh, come on, I want to be with you. No, get away. And it was really, I started a class. I was educating myself to a coach, and there were 16 new students, and everyone was, oh, come on, let's get to know each other. And I just, no, back off. So recovery is important.
Okay, because the follow-up question to that I actually had is, the 48-hour world record where you almost burn out from, or burnt out, well, afterwards that happened, right? And then the run in Iran, like, what have you learned? I mean, you kind of shared already about it actually, but let me just ask it to see if something else comes up. But what have you learned about it to not make that kind of same mistake for any next kind of big goals that you could share to listeners who might be working on a big goal? Like, to give yourself time afterwards is already an amazing kind of piece of advice. But is there any other things that you think of right now?
Giving time afterwards is important from two aspects. First of all, to recover yourself, and also that learnings, if you have a major challenge, the learnings are coming afterwards. Learning comes both during the adventure, but I would say that the main part is coming afterwards. So if you don't give yourself time to recover and to kind of melt and reflect around what you've been through, then you will miss a lot of learning. So I think, and one advice could also be not only to give that time, but also to work with your experience. For instance, when me and Karina, we ran from Turkey to Finland, and we thought we were pretty good friends before we left. And during the run, we understood we didn't know each other.
Wow, yeah. I mean, you spent a lot of very close time together on.
Very much, yeah. And we learned to know each other very well during this run, which is an amazing thing. She's really, in that sense, the love of my life. I mean, we know each other so well. But there was a few things that we couldn't talk about, some conflicts that we had. And we couldn't do it because we were in this situation when we were so dependent on each other. It was only us on this run. So a couple of months after we came home to Sweden, first we had, recovery time, spending time from each other in our own apartments. And then a person happened to ask us for a lecture. And to do this lecture, we started listing down all the issues we had that we hadn't solved. And we put them on Post-it notes, and we put them on a big whiteboard. And then we went through note by note saying, okay, what was your feelings or your views when this happened? And wow, was it that? Okay, now I understand. And my feelings and my views were these. And so we talked everything through, which brought us even closer to each other. And I think we did that because we were supposed to create this lecture. We wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for the lecture, but that was incredibly valuable. And it was the same thing with the Iran run, because when I came back home, I started writing a book. And I did it together with Desiree. She was appointed from the publishing house to write it with me. And we wrote it together. And during writing this book, it took a year to write the book. And I had to kind of, work through everything that I've been through, which made me understand so much more.
You had to analyze it, actually.
Yeah. And actually express, what did I feel? What did I... And it was a lot of things that came up there that I hadn't understood. And I think, if I wasn't forced to think and reflect due to I was writing a book, I wouldn't have understood so much more. So having something practical to do where you need to question what you went through is also a good tool to learn more and develop.
This is actually something not even with a goal, but what I do with my girlfriends. It's every 6 months we kind of do a sort of a 6-month review where we just kind of reflect back on the past 6 months and write down all the things that we did amazing together. Write down all the things that we like to see or would like to do differently or better next time. And then any worries that we might have, at the moment. And it's just it's a little bit like the goal, right? That to kind of reflect on it, but you can do this with everything, right? With your relationships, friendships, goals. But it's so helpful because you just understand the other person better and yourself better as well.
Yeah. I think that's amazing and wonderful that you're doing it and that you're really doing it. That's
Yeah,
something to
you can make
admire.
it fun, right? You can go and have a drink and then take a notebook and start writing things down while you're having a fun time somewhere in a bar, or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, when I'm talking about Karina, doing that thing we did with the Post-it notes, it made us know each other even more. And when I'm saying that she's the love of my life, I'm married, so of course that's a love of my life too. But in one sense, she is much deeper in the understanding of me as a person and how I'm working. And when I'm doing 6 days runs, which is something that's, I would say, the most extremely challenging that I have done, she is there as a loving supporter, and she knows me inside out so thoroughly. And I wouldn't be able to do that without her. She's a part of me in that sense. And so I think having worked us through ourselves so immensely together ensures that we can do together extreme results and experiences. So it's really, like you mentioned with your, I'm admiring that you're doing it with your girlfriend. It's really working on the relationship, and it's so rewarding.
It's also fun to actually look back at it after 6 more months to kind of see where you were at 6 months ago. Yeah, there's a lot of nice. Yeah, it's. I like it a lot, actually. A very different question, but I'm very curious actually about this. It's related to having a goal or working towards a goal. This is something that I'm sometimes not very good at or that I struggle with. So I'm curious to just kind of know your thoughts on it or how you do this. How do you, turn off your mind and relax before an adventure or a goal or a lecture, like your 2 TEDx talks, which will also be linked up for everyone to in the show notes. But for example, your TEDx talk, the day or the evening, when you had to go to bed before the lecture, how do you turn your mind off and relax? Do you have any tips or any pieces of advice, or do you just go and sleep?
I like that question. Actually, to do a TEDx talk for an introvert person, that's a challenge, I would say. And it's a challenge, I guess, for everyone, because people don't tend to like to speak in front of each other. But what I do is I prepare a lot. I prepare and I practice, and it's the same thing with my running. I practice a lot, I prepare a lot, I do test runs in the sense, I'm practicing, I'm standing there talking at home, holding the speech. And for TEDx, there's also coaches that are watching me and that give me advices so I can change and improve and so on. So it's a long process of training and improving. And the evening before, I would say it's not worth it to practice anymore, because then I have practiced so much. So actually I'm sick and tired of it also. So it's nice to stop.
Yeah.
So the evening before, or the day when I'm going to hold a speech, I'm saying, okay, today is race day. And race day comes from running, of course. And race days means focusing on nothing else. Now, what I'm focusing on right now is relaxation and presence. So, for instance, take a run, just look at something that I'm thinking is beautiful. I listen to a lot of guided meditations, body scan meditations. And because a key to make a successful speech or to do a successful run is to be relaxed and to just be present in that moment. And if I feel stress, or if I feel that I need to deliver, or anxiety, Okay. Well, it sounds easy to say don't, but okay, don't. and to help me focus on just feeling relaxed and feeling, wow, now it's time. Now it's time. I mean, it's time for delivery and to feel a joy in delivery, because I love to I love to do good things. I mean, I love to run for a record, or to deliver a wonderful speech that is enthusiasm. I mean, that's giving enthusiasm to the audience. But to do that, I need to be relaxed. So it's a balance of relaxation and some kind of stress. But for me, I need to emphasize relaxation, and I do it with guided meditations, by doing things I like, and by devoting the time before the talk or the run.
If you have to start preparing the day before the lecture, run, or exam, or whatever, or if you still have to do something that day you haven't prepared well, right?
Yeah.
I think that's essential, actually, that you can take that day off, because okay, I've trained months for this every day.
Yeah, and that's a good thing also. I mean, sometimes I get, okay, you're going to, I mean, this summer, it was so interesting. I was building my house. I invited my friends, my family, and 8 people were in my house at the weekend, and we were supposed to do, I mean, the plumbing was going to come, and there was so much going on. And then I have a phone call. Hey, can you hold a lecture? Yeah, sure I can. Yeah, it's on Tuesday. Okay, all right. It's in English. Okay. And you have 10 minutes. Whoa. Okay. And we have 4 to 5 million viewers on this lecture.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That's a little bit of stress.
It's quite a big one. But then then I don't have time to practice. So then I need to do another thing. And that is, okay, construct this lecture as good as I can, practice to make sure that it is 10 minutes, accept that, okay, I will not be able to practice as much as I want to. Just put emphasis on trust. To trust, okay, I know everything. It's all in here. Just trust it, and it will blurt out. So
I recently also watched your second TEDx talk that you did, and it's been a while ago that you did this, right? I don't know if it's been 4 or 5 years ago, or less than that.
Ooh.
Or less, maybe. I don't know
if it was 18 or 19.
Yeah, maybe it was 2018 or 19. But anyway, I wanted to say just that I was very impressed, actually. I thought it was an amazing talk, and how incredible must it, I mean, you had even a standing ovation of people clapping, and what went through you when that happened, actually?
I didn't expect it at all. So it was,
everyone hopes for that, right? But it doesn't happen a lot.
No, and it was the first time in my life it happened, a standing ovation during the speech.
Right, it happened during it.
Yeah, so it was both during and after. And I remember the first time I had a standing ovation, it was after a speech. I got so scared, so I jumped up. I jumped off from stage.
You did?
Yeah, I didn't know how to handle it. So next time it happened, I just told myself, okay, stay, remain on stage, just say thank you, just feel it, just enjoy it. So it's been a process, in a sense, of developing. But now it was the time even during my speech, and I was happy that it was my second TEDx speech, because in TEDx you shouldn't talk for more than 18 minutes. Yeah, and my speech was planned for exactly 18 minutes. And here I'm having a standing ovation for 1.5 minutes. So there you go. Time is lost. But I just thought that, okay, this is extraordinary. Just let it be. I will take those 1.5 minutes more, because it's okay. Standing ovation is something to be grateful for, and not forcing the lecture. So, but then after first I felt very surprised. It was very unexpected that it happened. Then I was just standing there feeling, wow, just enjoy, just let this feeling fill me. And then I got scared, because then it was like, oh, maybe they thought the lecture ended, but I'm not done.
You handled that really well, to be honest.
You think so? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very smooth, I would say.
Yeah, thanks. Well, and I think it comes with practicing.
Yeah.
So if it would have happened my first TEDx, I would have been much more nervous. So, and also what's good with TEDx is that they are recorded, and what you see on YouTube, you can edit it. So
It's true, right?
so, keeping that in, it's a good thing to release some.
Yeah.
But it was, if it happens once in your lifetime, then just enjoy it.
Exactly. Doesn't happen a lot.
No.
So again, for everyone listening, those 2 TEDx talks will be linked up in the show notes. I'm very curious actually to ask you the following thing. The internet and social media are a whole, new world that we're all still kind of learning to navigate through, right? Now, you've gotten a lot of media attention actually over the years. Your 2 world records, mainly probably in Sweden, but then your run in Iran, just worldwide, right? Attention. But handling such an attention online can be challenging because, as we said, we're kind of still learning how to navigate through that world. What are some things you've actually learned from all this online attention?
Yeah, that's a very good question also. Well, running through Iran was overwhelming in terms of media attention. And first I learned that I couldn't handle it. After The Guardian made a video and it had 10 million views in 2 weeks, and my email was completely drenched with interview questions, and there were text messages, Messenger was full, and I had no clue how to navigate. So I did spoil. I lost some. For instance, the first one who emailed me was Der Spiegel, and I was looking through my mailbox from top to bottom, and the first one was at the bottom. So it wasn't a clever choice. So I learned that I need to scan through everyone who wants attention and then make a prioritization from that. But it was also interesting to see what happened with me, because suddenly it felt like I was the girl who ran through Iran, and that's it, nothing more. And as soon as I mentioned that I've been running through Iran, everything people wanted to talk about was my run through Iran. So it came a lot of feelings, like, for instance, if I'm on a dinner with a lot of friends or unknown people, they say, "Wow, you ran through Iran," and no one is talking about something else, and it's just, okay, I want you to have attention, and I want you to have attention, and not only me. So it was difficult. At the same time, I liked the image that I saw of a brave woman who did something that she believed in and followed it through. But I remember I also tried to kind of escape. Some people were admiring me, and I was kind of saying, no, it's not me. I didn't do this. Okay, I did it, but the one who should have the focus are all the hundreds of people I met that were friendly to me. It was they who created the they together with me in the interaction that created this marvelous run. And I think, I mean, that's true, but somehow I tried to kind of, no, it wasn't me, it was them, only them. So it took some struggle to navigate through that world. And it was also very strange to come to a running competition and meet people I didn't know who said, oh, hey, you are Kristina.
Right.
Can you talk about your Iran run? I'm here with my friends and we're supposed to run. Can we do it some other day? So, well, it took a couple of years of, it was a, roller coaster ride in one sense. But I think, I mean, now it feels like, okay, I did run through Iran, but that's not my identity. And it's something I did, and I did it because of the values I have, because of the person I am. So yeah, it is an expression for myself. But that's something I did in the past. Now I want to create my future. And so I think that's an important distinction, not to stay in the past just because the past was successful. Now I'm going to create something else, and I want to put focus on that. Okay, I still have my past, and that of course goes together with my future because I'm still the same person, but it's not my identity.
With like all the emails and messages that you received, how did you work through all of them, or didn't you? Or like, because of course most people listening will not have it to the same level as you, of amounts of emails, but it's sometimes tricky with all the social media platforms out there like Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, emails, text, there's so many places that you have to sort of check for messages, or that you can get messages from people, that it's, even if you're not, world famous, many people get so overwhelmed sometimes by the amount of messages that they get. I certainly do, actually. How did you stay sane, actually, from all these messages? Did you do anything, or yeah?
I wasn't sane all the time. I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
I tried to reply to everything and everyone, and I tried to.
That's a whole job on its own.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, no one will be happy if I'm burnt out. I won't, and other people won't become happy otherwise. I mean, so burning out myself doesn't serve me or the world.
That's true. Yeah.
So, I mean, at some points, yeah, I did put a lot of focus on kayaking, actually.
Okay, to help you
I
through
did.
this?
Yeah, I did. I did. I did give myself an order, and that was to go kayaking for a weekend at least each month, and that was mandatory. It was not possible to negotiate about, because kayaking really helps me. I mean, when I go out on Friday evening, I feel, okay, let's go kayaking. And then Saturday, oh, it feels better. And Sunday, wow, world is beautiful. So that helped. But also sometimes, I mean, shut off the phone. And yeah, if it's important, people will come back. And yeah, I don't have to reply. I mean, in one sense, life is a lot about priorities. I have 24 hours a day. I don't know how many days I have. If I want to put my focus into strangers on Facebook, I can do that. If I want to take care of my dad who's suffering from dementia, I can do that. It's a choice, and I need to balance my choices in a way that makes me feel good.
It is about prioritizing what is important to you, and really thinking about it, actually, too, because sometimes you can just forget, that there are more important things maybe than what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah. And I think I really love what you're doing with your girlfriend, that 6 months review. That's really putting importance in your relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
And I guess what's more important than that?
It's true. The other side, of health is physical health. I'm, curious to know how, on a daily basis, if there is something specific that you do, how you keep your body healthy, and this could be any diets or some sleeping habits or exercise habits. Yeah, I'm curious to know your thoughts or what you do on that.
Yeah. I go on a run every day.
Every day.
Yeah. And that's because I noticed, if I don't, I used to say that if I'm running, then I'm eating, sleeping, and shitting well. So, sorry about that.
That's true. Yes.
No, but running, it gives me some kind of meditation while doing it. It's a very nice way to let my thoughts just flow around, and that's healthy for me. And it also, running, of course, it gives physical exercise. But let me emphasize, I'm running slowly. I'm running looking at the autumn leaves or the spring flowers, or staying by a beautiful spot if I find one, and just admiring it. So it's not so strenuous. It's more relaxing. And since I'm running, I need to eat, and I need to eat pretty good food, which in my mind is food that I cook myself. Now I'm eating more vegetarian than before, but that's for climate purposes, not for health, really, actually more climate oriented. And well, as long as I'm running, my stomach is working very well, and I sleep well because my body is a bit more tired. So I think, and I don't really know how much physical exercise is doing for my mental, but I think, and physical health, but I think it's doing quite a lot. But I'm not really aware of it because it's so normal to do it.
Yeah, but for people where it's not normal to kind of move every day, if they would actually go and move, everyone feels so good afterwards.
Yeah.
If you go for a walk even. So
half an hour or whatever.
Yeah, if you want to live a happy life and a meaningful one, or mainly a happy one, let's say now, just having more movement in your day is crazy how much it does.
It does. And there's lots of research right now on what physical exercise is doing for your mental health and for your brain. And I think, being able to have focus on so many things as I'm doing, and to cope with my reality, I think physical exercise is really the basis for that. And that's why I wanted it to be first when you asked me. And well, I also notice if I don't run, I don't feel well. I'm losing capacity mentally, and also I feel more tired. I feel more depressed or whatever.
It keeps you mentally well. Yeah, and it does so much. You've put your body through so many, things. So you have been able to spend a lot of time kind of getting to know your body, What have you learned, from all the things that you've done and all the things that you've put your body through about your body that still to this day surprises you?
Yeah. I am surprised by that my body is so wise. The body seems to know more about me than I'm aware of myself. And also that the body is always taking care of me. And also that, I would almost say the infinite capability that the body is having. And when I'm saying the body, I don't mean only my body. I mean a lot of bodies, so maybe everyone's bodies, because the reason I know that people can do so much more than they usually think that they can do from a physical point of view because I've seen it so many times. For instance, my husband is having a 15-year-old daughter, and when she was 13, I asked her if she wanted to do a 6-hour race. And in those races, I mean, you go running round, and see how far you can go.
Wow.
And she, I mean, when I told her that there are candies and you can eat as much candies as you want to during this run,
she was interested.
She was really interested and she wanted to go. And she had been running 4 kilometers as a personal record. And I think that was in May or April. I don't remember. And in June, we did a 7-kilometer long run. And then we did a 17-kilometer long run, which means eating blueberries, eating raspberries, having a coffee at a cafe, and, well, taking it slowly. And then she did this race. And she ran 33.7 kilometers. So I think for a 13-year-old to go from 4 kilometer to 33.7 in a couple of months, and she's also suffering from diabetes. And I mean, that's pretty amazing in my mind. And I mean, she's only one example. There's so many people I've seen that done this. So I've learned that our bodies are incredibly capable. We just need to figure out how to handle them in a good way so that they can give us everything they want to, because I'm thinking that the body is longing to express everything that it can do and everything that it's capable of. But I think that the human mind sets the limit for the body. The body is always much more capable.
That's beautifully said. Yes, it is. And it's only through putting yourself, through things, that you can actually discover these things, right?
Yeah. And you have to go out in the unknown. Otherwise, you won't know what your body is capable of.
Yep. And also for anyone, if you're struggling with confidence, for example, just, go and do some kind of adventure where you have to work together with your body, and your confidence will also increase. Because you know what you can do, more because of that. And with that, confidence comes, right? Because you know what you can do in life.
And I think that's really important, because I think my running has affected my mind so much that I believe that I will be able to cope with this political role that I'm taking on right now. And it has nothing to do with my physical thing, but somehow my body learned that, okay, I'm capable. So why, of course, I should be able to do this too. It will take some time. It will take some pain. I will fail a lot of times, but pain goes away. Learning stays. So
deep lessons that you get from doing some big adventures in life. Getting older is something very, or it can be very scary for many people. But I'm curious to know, from when you were young to where you are now, what are you surprised about, from getting older about your body? For example, one that I can give as an example that I've heard from someone who is in his 50, is how amazing it still feels being 50. At 20, a lot of people think when I'm 50, I'm old. I can't do anything anymore or whatever. But that's actually so not true. I'm not there yet, but I'm just, listening to what other people at that age say. And so many say that they are so surprised by how capable and healthy and young they still feel at age 50 and older too, right? I don't know if this brings something to your mind.
I'm thinking that having the background that I'm having with doing a lot of physical exercise, I'm thinking that generally, I think that I'm better off than a lot of my friends that are at the same age. And I also notice when they complain about things I haven't even thought about, I notice a difference looking at the physical reality. But I also noticed that, now I need reading glasses. So I'm getting old in that sense. And also, when I've been working with my house, I had, for the first time in my life, I had back problems.
Yeah, okay.
And they, yeah. So I think becoming older means that I need to pay more attention in how I treat my body. For instance, I want to start doing more muscle exercise because muscles are decreasing with age, is what
Yeah.
people say.
Yeah.
So,
Same
but I
with like the
think,
bone strength.
yeah,
Yeah.
which, and talking about bone strength, I hope I will not have problems with that because, I mean, running gives this stress on the skeleton, so it's actually building up. So the skeleton of a runner is thicker than on someone who is not running. So I will keep on running, and well, I haven't considered myself as old. So maybe I'm 50 years old now. Maybe people in my age are considering themselves as old. I don't know. I guess some don't. I don't. I notice some differences, like for instance, my sight, my back. But I think that my attitude towards my body is that my body is something that's flexible, and depending on how I treat it, it will react differently. So I don't assume that just because I'm getting old, I don't assume that my body will go downhill, so to say. I mean, of course, it will be different, but I mean, it's still a result of how I'm treating it. So I just need to treat it well.
Yeah, and it's definitely a lot with the attitudes too, right?
Mm,
Like my mom is close to the 60s or in the 60s, but
mm,
she feels so. I mean, yeah,
mm,
she has an amazing attitude. So,
yeah,
uh, yeah, that does a lot. And then of course, just taking care of yourself, right, helps to
yeah,
stay young and feel young.
yeah. And I mean, to be able to do what you want to do, I mean, that goes no matter if you're young or if you're old. I mean, there are so many 20 years old who are not able to do what they want to do because of physical limitations. So that treat your body in a different way then, and hopefully, and it takes time. And I mean, we need to respect our bodies in the sense that we cannot stress them too much in too short time. Sorry,
Don't
we
worry.
need to build them up carefully, and
Yeah.
I think sometimes I've been feeling a little bit sad because I think I've been too harsh on my body, but my body has always given me back, I mean, given me positive things back. So I think, I don't know, I think the body loves to be used.
It gets stronger from it, so I would say, yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, that's true. It kind of dies if you don't use it.
Yeah, it does.
Mhm.
Just a quick announcement and we will get right back to the interview. If you're enjoying this interview with Kristina, note that she has also an online course on the Learning Academy of the IPS project, where she goes in depth into all the lessons she has learned from planning and going on the various adventures in her life. Running 1,144 miles alone to Iran, climbing Mount Aconcagua, working to achieve her 2 world records, and so many more. Learn the lessons she has gained over the years through her in-depth course on the topic of building confidence and goal setting, qualities that have led her to accomplish all these things. To find a link to the course, simply check the description of this episode. And know that if you do not like the course, there is a 30-day money-back guarantee, even if you have already enrolled. Again, to read the full course description, watch some of the preview lessons, and read reviews from other students, check out the link to the course in the description of this episode. This kind of covered the questions of like health that I had. There's 2 more categories. So out of the 2 remaining ones, which one do you want to continue next to? And it was, we covered health now. There was wealth and meaning still left.
I think let's go for meaning.
All right. like life can be very confusing.
Mm.
It's not particularly to be called easy. A lot of things happen to anyone almost in their life that are quite challenging. So it's important, I would say, to find a meaning to everything that's kind of happening. I
Mm.
personally think it's an essential part of living a happy life and a meaningful one, to have that aspect in your life more meaning. I'm curious to first ask you just something about the other side of life, which is death.
Mm.
And I want to know just, how do you feel? Because we're all getting older, right? Every second, that you're,
Mm.
to those who are listening to this, you're getting older just by the second that you're listening to this. Um, it's real, it's coming every day
Mm.
closer. We're all coming closer to death. And I'm curious just to know how do you feel just about that? How do you feel about coming closer every day to
Mm.
death?
Yeah, I can panic in one way because I think there's so much beauty in this world and there's so much that I want to experience and I want to enjoy it. At the same time, I'm thinking, I mean, Moses, I just want to be satisfied every day because I mean, I know that life will end and I don't want to put up being satisfied to someone someday when I'm 65 or when I'm 80 or whatever, because I might not live then. So instead, being satisfied every day is something that I'm aiming for, and I'm not always fulfilling it. But that also makes it possible to leave every day, to die. Because, I mean, if I'm satisfied every day, then I'm kind of, I mean, I'm kind of done with what I want to do. I think I can never fulfill everything I want to do. That's there's so many things I want to do, but so I can just do the things I want to do, and like I said, I need to prioritize, and I hope I'm prioritizing well, that I'm doing the things that are most fulfilling. And when I die, I hope I will die happily. And well, we talked about my heart problem, and I think in my potential heart problem, and if I'm having that heart problem, and I'm thinking if it one day will cause my death, then I think, wow, that's kind of a pretty good death, just to fall, drop dead.
It's true.
And
It's a
yeah, I
very
mean,
peaceful way, actually, I would say too. Yeah.
yeah, compared to being ill for 10 years
Yeah.
or like my
Yeah.
dad suffering from dementia. Yeah.
Yeah. Some neurological problems. Oof. That must
Mm,
be so tough, actually.
yeah. So, yeah, it scares me sometimes, but it's also, I'm also a little bit curious what will happen afterwards. Will there be something afterwards? In one way, I can consider death as the biggest adventure of life.
I think so too, actually. Yeah. Right. It's
Yeah,
the most unknown adventure that we all will embark on, right?
absolutely. And I think, I mean, I don't know if we can know anything about death, but I think the way we view it today when we are living is affecting how we are feeling during this life. So because of that, I want to view it as an adventure and as something exciting. Something new will come afterwards. I have no idea what it is. And I don't know if that's true, but if it's giving me meaning today to think of it like that, then okay, I choose that
Yeah. It's a
direction.
worthwhile way to then, view,
Mm,
uh, yeah, to have that kind of view on death, that it's like the next big adventure after
mm,
this. Yeah. If
yeah.
it's helpful, then definitely.
Mm,
Um, because then I'm also curious to just, you know, how do you keep this balance to at the same time, try to live as much as you can every day, but that is, but not stress out too much that you are dying every day. How do you keep that balance if there's something coming to minds on that question?
What gives me meaning is constantly developing myself, which does not mean the same thing as educating myself or learning more things, but it's develop myself as a person. And that's a moving target. And so I can never be done, completed or so. I'm always growing. So if I'm always growing, I'm always there. And then it's okay to die every day because I'm always at my target in one sense. But still, I'm planning for the future. So, the balance between planning for the future and being present in today.
That's a tricky balance, but that's... Yeah.
Yes, that's a very tricky balance. And I need to remind myself to be present in today because there's so many things I want to do. I tend to rush away. And well, usually I do that for 2-3 weeks and then I start feeling bad and need to change how I'm living. And actually I'm in that kind of period right now with this new assignment with the politics. There's so much I want to learn and it's a lot of stress. So then I need to, actually the morning run is very good. Usually I run in the morning. So it helps to have good perspective on life. Okay, this is what I liked. This is what I'm here for. I'm not here for reading emails from 6 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock in the evening. I'm actually here to enjoy it. So, not a perfect answer, but I think putting in some routines that helps you relax.
Yeah, to stay or to have some things in the day, as 10 minutes of meditation where you are present.
Yeah.
To balance the present and the future, planning for the future, because the future is also part of being alive, right? So it's not like you shouldn't plan for it or kind of live or look forward to it, but you shouldn't. You just have to keep a balance between those two. Having enough moments in your day to also be in the present, and exercising is a great way, for example, right? And next thing, very different, but you're a great example of someone who because you did at the age of 32, if I'm not mistaken, your first big run or real run, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of people would say that that's old, Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of people I know a lot of people in their, the end of their 20s or close to 30 who will call themselves old or feel like they're old.
Okay.
And I'm very kind of interested on that. I'm curious to know what you would say to someone who feels, someone who's listening, who feels that they're too old to make a change. What would you say to someone who thinks that?
Well, why do you define it as old? What does it mean to be old? I mean, for instance, if I'm having back problems now when working with my house, okay, I'm making the assumption that I'm having back problems because I'm old, but I didn't train my back muscles.
Yeah.
So is it really is it really truly a matter of fact that I'm old, that I'm having back problems, or might it be that I just didn't treat my body in the correct way? If I train my back muscles and if I do, all the things, the training I should do, will I still have back problems? Why there doesn't have to question, why do you come to the conclusion that you're old? If you can't do a thing, it might be that you didn't practice. It might be, that you didn't have the correct feedback or whatever. What does it mean to be old? I've been competing with, I really love the 24-hour race where it was a son who was 50 years old who was competing, and he was there with his father. His father was 80, and they were doing this 24-hour race together.
At the world record that you were setting?
No, not at a world record, but it was a 24-hour race, normal race.
Uh-huh.
And I also, at the 6 days race that I've been running, there's 2 guys who are more than 80 who are doing that. And how can you say that you're old? What is the definition? So I think, if I'm going to be a little bit rude, that saying that you're old, then you are kind of removing, all excuses. Okay, I'm old, I can't do that.
It's a good excuse, that's true.
It's too late. Yeah, then I won't have to do something. So if you think that you're old, do you really want to do what you're up to doing? Maybe you're not interested. Maybe that's the problem. And because I tend to say, if you're setting a target for yourself or a goal, you need to focus on what's taking you towards that goal, not what's taking you from it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Saying that you're old is probably taking you from it.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it could be that you're not interested in what you said you wanted to do. And then you have a perfect excuse in saying that you're old.
Yeah, but it's a huge limiting belief that I feel a lot of people have very easily, because you're getting older every day. That's true, right? But actually, like you said, if you get back pain, it could be because of another reason than because you're getting old.
Yeah. And if I take my house as an example, I've been cutting down a lot of trees and cutting the trunk into pieces and carrying away the trunks are really heavy. And I did have a back problem. So, okay, it might be that I'm old and that my muscles are not good enough in that sense. But if I really want to have a nice garden with, and also wood to make a log fire, then I need to cut down my trees. So how do I find a way around? If the goal is to cut down the trees and I'm old and having back problems, okay, cut the trunks into smaller pieces. Ask my friends to help me find ways around. That's what I mean with focus. I cannot focus on the problem. I need to focus on the solution. How do I get where I want to go?
I also think for anyone listening who is struggling, with that feeling, that you should look for people who prove the opposite, like you, for example. Someone who's listening who's like, oh, I'm 28 and I want to start doing ultra marathons. Look for someone who has done it, who is older than you, like you, right?
Yeah.
Or someone else. Yeah. And there's plenty of people out there, if you're just willing to search, that can prove you wrong, that you can do basically anything at a much older age than you possibly think. If you would actually observe yourself, like if you would, if you could get out of your body and just observe you and everything that you've done in life, all the things that you've accomplished and everything, what do you feel that you primarily do different than anyone out there, who doesn't go for their dreams or goals? Is there one thing that you could kind of, if you would zoom out and look at your life, that you can kind of see would be an element or something that you do different than others?
That I tend to look at the positive things instead of the negative things. That's just one thing I think. And I also think that this sounds a little bit more boring, and that is that I'm willing to take the pain. I mean,
Uh-huh.
if you want to accomplish big things and you have big dreams, I'm thinking about a friend I had. She was selected to run the 100-kilometer race in a world championship, and she was a new runner, and she set her targets really high, and she trained a lot, and she trained and trained and trained and trained, and 2 weeks before the competition her knee broke down. And
Oof.
but she was a nurse, so she took some strong medication so she wouldn't feel pain, and then she still went,
Uh,
which I can question in one way. And she started running that 100K world championship, and she did 40 kilometers, and then she crashed.
damn.
Her body didn't work.
Mm.
And two Swedes were on taking gold and silver in that world championship. And as they were standing on stage receiving their medals, she was sitting behind stage crying. And I was sitting there comforting her. So setting a high target and wanting to achieve something really big is related to a risk. And that risk means that you might be exposed to pain. And if you're not willing to take that pain, you will not reach your target. That's my philosophy. And like I said a little bit earlier, pain goes away. It's temporary. So if I mean, of course, there's pain that's permanent as well, but as long as I'm not risking permanent pain, but the pain is temporary, I'm saying physical pain and mental pain are very similar. Maybe they are the same. And for instance, having this new position in politics now, I'm having 100% probability of failure at some instances. And yes, it will be painful, but I will never learn. I will never reach where I'm going if I'm not able to accept that pain. So I think that, looking at the positive, for instance, when I do things that doesn't turn out well, or when I do things that turn out well, I always ask myself the same two questions. What did I would do well? And what can I do better? So actually, I'm treating, if I'm setting a world record, or if I'm not, if I'm failing, it doesn't matter. It's not the result that's important. What's important is what I learned. What did I do well, and what can I do better? Even if I'm setting a world record, there's always something I can do better. Even if I failed, there's always something I did do well. So to treat myself, I mean, the means are not the result. The means are the way of getting there. So, well, now I kind of forgot your question.
Doesn't matter. The answer, it's a great answer. It's a great answer. And you actually answered, the question. What I asked was actually if you could observe yourself, what you primarily do different than other people. But you primarily look for the positive and focus, on the things that you can change. And you've gotten comfortable with knowing that there will be pain involved.
Yeah.
But like you
because
said,
then I know that I'm growing
right,
as a person.
Yeah, and I mean pain, exactly. Also just with your muscles, right? Having muscle pain. You have it because your muscles are growing.
Yeah.
Or if you go, through things that are very tough, you will feel pain, but it's there as a way if you, kind of listen to the pain, because you have to be willing to kind of listen to it as well. Then you can grow.
Yeah. And I think there might be another thing. I mean, one thing that's really important for me is the love of life. I mean, we have this valuable time. We don't know how much time we have. And I think if I live my life being scared of a lot of things and end up dying, not doing what I wanted to do, then it's waste. but I mean, there's so much beauty in the world, both in terms of nature and in terms of people and in terms of how we can treat each other. So why not just, I mean, eat this caramel fully while being here
Yeah.
and just experience everything that's here, because we only have this limited time. So eat the cake, so to say. Enjoy it. And well, and that's something that I had since childhood, and I don't know why it's there, but it's just there. And I think it's a love of life. That's the way I define it.
You have no idea at all why it could be there?
It's just sheer lust. I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it comes from my parents, maybe from my grandmother. I don't know. But it's just, life is wonderful. I mean, so enjoy it.
Yeah, because a lot of people only get this kind of big insights when they're face the other side. You know, when they have cancer, for example, and survived it, or or when someone died very close to them or something. It's not per se very easily given to someone to have that insight, but it's beautiful that you do.
I'm happy for it, and there might be reasons why I'm having it that I'm not aware of, but it's just
Or
there.
you're just super conscious about the fact that it's real, you know, that
Could be.
it's yeah. A last part here on the topic of meaning. This is a quote from it's a very famous quote actually, from Friedrich Nietzsche, which goes like follow: "To live is to suffer, to survive is to find meaning in the suffering." How do you find meaning in the suffering that you've gone through? Is there anything that helps you to find meaning in the suffering in life? Any thoughts, any belief, or anything that you do?
Yeah, well, I want to believe that there is a meaning with suffering, and sometimes I question it. But I think the two questions, like I mentioned before, what was good? I mean, what did I do well? Can be interpreted into what was good in this situation, and then what can be better? I mean, what can I learn? I think one of the biggest lessons I had in my life was from the divorce, and the divorce was definitely incredibly painful.
How
Because
old? Sorry to interrupt, but how old
no problem.
how old were you when the divorce happened?
30, I think, 32, 33.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that was definitely painful. And also wanting to have children, trying to have children. First, I did try to have children together with my husband, but he couldn't. So I guess that's why the divorce happened. But then I tried to have children on my own, but then I was too old, so it didn't happen. That was also painful. But now, years afterwards, I can see that these have been the biggest and most valuable lessons in my life, that I learned more about me, and that also helped me to change the direction in my life into what I now think is so much more me than if I would have continued being married, or having children or so. And now I'm having children in the sense that my husband is having children and my sister is having children, and I also have a goddaughter. So I have 6 children in one sense, but I'm not having to take care of them all the time, which is perfect for me.
An added benefit.
Yes. I have only the golden moments, not so I'm really happy with that, and that suits me. And of course, I don't know if I'm doing this explanation to myself just as an excuse, or whatever, but I feel happy, so that's good. But there are also one part of my life that I cannot understand. It caused a lot of suffering, and I don't see the meaning with it yet. And I think maybe that's the clue, that I want to see a meaning and I'm looking for that meaning, but I just haven't fully understood it yet. And I think that meaning will come in this question that I talked about in the beginning, how racism and homophobia and oppression against women, how that's linked together, because it kind of relates to that thing. So, well, maybe the desire to see a meaning in suffering is creating a meaning in suffering.
A last question that I had on this topic or on this category, I would say like we've all made certain discoveries in life where we had some big insight, you know. It could be, I mean, for everyone, this is going to be very different. Or where we learned some kind of understanding about ourselves or about life, you know, through a word that someone said or a book, you know, that we read or something that happened to us. What is something significant that has improved the quality of your life, like an understanding? Can you think of something that, or does something come to your mind? And again, this could be, you know, something that someone said, a movie that you watched where you felt a certain understanding coming through you about life that has significantly improved the quality of your life.
There are lots of such moments, actually, and lots, I would say. But one recent was when I was kayaking and I was alone on an island, and I was sitting there in the morning, actually having breakfast, and then I realized I consider death as, okay, my physical body will vanish, but my soul would continue, I thought. Then what is the soul? And I considered my soul as all the thoughts, I mean, all the world that I'm creating within myself. I considered that as my soul, and I thought that would continue. But that morning on that beach, I realized that, hey, that's a part of my ego. That will also vanish. It will vanish when I die. There will be nothing left considered as me. But then I looked at a footpath that I had. There was a lot of
Steps.
Yeah, and there was a footpath
Footprints.
a footprint. Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And I realized that, okay, no matter if I'm vanishing, I will have left imprints on the ground. I will have left imprints in people's hearts in this world that we're all living. And I think those imprints are creating something. They might create love, goodness, friendship, something that I value. Or they might create envy, greed, things that I don't value. So even if I'm disappearing, it was really sad to realize that I would be gone. But in the same time, I think that, okay, there will be something left, but what I'm leaving on the earth are the imprints that are made. And for me, I would value if those imprints are something that's creating something that feels good in people's hearts.
You do right now. I mean, everyone make a choice about what you leave behind for sure, and it's good to stand still behind it and kind of think like, okay, you know what I've done or where I am right now, and I look at the the footsteps that I've left behind. Am I proud of those?
Yeah.
I often also think about this actually. Yeah. This was the last one of the question on meaning. So we have one more category left, which is wealth.
Yeah. Exciting.
Do you want to dive into it or?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Sure. Go ahead.
All right. So I want to start with a very obvious kind of, wealth, which is money. You
Mm.
know, we can like it or not, but money is in the world that we live in an essential kind of resource, right? To help us get food on our plates, have water, shelter. Money is the resource that kind of helps us to get those things. To live a happy life, some degree of money, yeah, is an essential resource kind of there. I don't have a lot of questions on money, but just kind of curious to know a little bit of your thoughts on a few questions that I have on it.
Mm.
When you were in this transition from working for someone as an engineer to
Mm.
becoming self-employed, that's not easy, to make that transition. Very challenging one
Mm.
for so many reasons. But I was wanting to know, like, when you think back, what smart money decisions did you make in that transition from working for someone to becoming self-employed? Can you think of any?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Awesome.
Actually, I'm kind of I would like to be less controlled, but I think I'm quite a controlling person.
Uh-huh.
So it was actually, I would say, a 10-year transition time to make that decision.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of planning. Actually, I didn't plan consciously all the time, but after my divorce, I did buy the apartment that we were living in. So I bailed him out, or what do you call it? I mean, I paid half of the
Yeah, you paid
apartment,
it. Ah, yeah,
yeah,
okay. I got it. Yeah.
to
Mhm.
him, so it was mine.
Yes.
Then I also paid all the debts I had for the apartment, so I had no loans.
Mm,
And
that's smart.
yeah, it was good. And when I had done that, I also paid the loans I had for my studies.
Mm,
So I was living a life where I was having no loans, and also kind of a cheap apartment because I had no loans. So I was only paying the monthly fee. And being, well, alone, no children, a good salary, I can save a lot of money. So I did save a lot of money. And maybe I knew that I wanted to live a different life. Maybe I didn't know, but I did save a lot of money, but I didn't know what I was going to do with them. So I just saved them. So at the end, I had a lot of money and I was 44 years old. And this idea about running through Iran came up. And I knew that I asked my manager, and he wouldn't give me a vacation to go on this run. And this was deeply meaningful for me to do the run and, in that sense, work for trust. Um, and I had been thinking for several years that maybe I would quit my job at Ericsson, start holding lectures. So also, I mean, I've been running around at Ericsson where I was employed, holding lectures. I don't know, I did 60, 80 lectures or what for several years, which is, I mean, as a new lecturer, it's really hard to get time to practice, and you need a lot of practice to be successful. And here I could run around, well, on my job, holding lectures for people who wanted to hear. And when I did set my 2 world records, it was in the Ericsson, in the former Ericsson gym, and Ericsson has perseverance as a core value. So I kind of symbolize perseverance at Ericsson. So I was invited to a lot of different places at Ericsson to hold lectures. So I did save a lot of money, paid all my debts, saved a lot of money, did practice to be a lecturer. And I wanted to do something else because I thought engineering is nice, being a manager is nice, but inspiring people and helping them to live their dreams, that's something that is more important to me. So I had been thinking for several years that maybe this is something that I want to do in the future. So I started my company in 2006, actually. My divorce was in 2003, 2004, and I started my company in 2006. And it grew a little bit for every year. And then I finally come to the Iran run. And then I thought, okay, it's now the right time to quit my job and be self-employed. And actually, we had a layoff at Ericsson at that time. But at that time, you could not really apply to be laid off. But if you were laid off, you would have a package, kind of a 9-month salary or something like that, depending on how long time you've been working. And my dear husband, he's working with economy and he's very good at counting. So he asked me, so, okay, Kristina, what are your costs? What can you...
Your current husband, I would say,
yeah,
right?
my current husband.
Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So he looked at my cost. How can I change the way I'm living if I'm having too high costs on some parts? And okay, if I have this package from Ericsson, how much money would I have on that? And then usually I'm not using a lot of money. So I don't like buying clothes. I think that's one of the most boring parts in life.
I follow you in that.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't have much cost. And when he saw, okay, you can have this amount of money from Ericsson, and if you have these kind of costs, then you can live 4 years on the money from Ericsson. I said, wow, okay, I'm 44 years old. I'm having this dream. I have the financial possibilities. I have the opportunity to do this. It's just a matter of fact of my own decision. So, am I going to live my life for 18 more years and then retire after being, I would say, slavery at Ericsson?
Yeah.
It's not slavery, but that's the way it felt. But
sure. Yeah.
Or should I fulfill my dream? And put in that perspective, I think the answer to that question is really easy. So I thought, okay, if I do quit my job and have 4 years in my life from the age of 44 to 48, where I can do whatever I want to, and then I will, I don't know, work as a whatever afterwards because I can't do a business, well, then it was worth it because I had those 4 years. And if I work well and if I'm lucky, then I can hopefully run my own business. And yeah, it's been working so far.
Yeah.
It's been tough with Corona though.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it was a very good thing because I had been working 18 years at Ericsson, and it's easy to kind of feel locked in with, okay, I have this security of my or having my employer and having my salary, but it kind of locks me into a pattern which I don't like. So quitting my job and being free, you talked about wealth as freedom, and being free to do whatever I want to, which also means having the responsibility for everything I'm doing.
True.
And that's not always comfortable. But then I can see so many other views than I felt compared to when I was having a regular job.
If we would actually turn the question around, if you look at the past, what money decisions would you have made differently today? Like if you could go back and, meet yourself and say like, all right, you should probably do that a little bit differently. Here's why. Yeah. What money decision would you have done differently?
I would definitely have made an agreement with my first husband before I married him. It was expensive to have a divorce.
Like an agreement on who owns what?
Yes.
Or,
mine is mine and yours is yours.
Yes. Actually, me and my girlfriend also talked about that. We're not married or something, but it's something that it's not romantic to talk about.
No,
but
absolutely.
Honestly, you should talk about it. And you should also take it serious. I think it can save you, if it ever would end or something will go wrong, so much stress and problems, as you probably know.
Yeah, and I think it's. Now I'm talking in the perspective of a divorce that didn't work out well. It was a very tough one. So that's not a nice perspective. But I think there is a much better perspective, and that's the perspective of being independent. If your girlfriend or if you would be depending on the other, then I would say, loving someone is absolutely not the same as being dependent on someone else. So, of course, I'm dependent in the terms that I would be hurt. I would feel sad if that person leave me, because I love that person and I want to live with them. But I think one basis of being able to love each other fully is that both are independent, that you're not connected to each other financially, because then you are free and then you can choose your girlfriend, not because you have to choose her because you can't afford to divorce her or something, but you choose her because you want to live with her, not because of money.
I totally agree. So that's something that you would have done differently.
Yeah, definitely.
A last question on just the money topic. What has been a very helpful lesson over the years that you've learned about money that you would share to other people?
Don't compare. Don't compare your salary with someone else's salary. If you're happy with your salary, then you're happy. That's the only important thing. If someone else has more or less, doesn't matter. Don't compare. So just, if you're happy, you're happy. And also, I think it was very interesting. A couple of years before I left my work, we had a yearly talk, my manager and I. It's mandatory, everyone has it. And if you want to have a higher salary, you should do this and you should develop that. And I said, well, you know what? I'm not interested in having a higher salary. And it's really interesting to see what impact that has. I'm not interested. I'm having enough. I'm not interested in more. So then my manager has kind of no power of me from a salary point of view. And what's really interesting here, I think, is there's so much research saying that people are not motivated by having more money once you have enough money. But still, companies try to motivate people with money. How stupid can we be? How much research do we need to do before people understand that this is not a motivation factor? So I would say to first, don't compare. If you're happy, you're happy. If you're not, well, do something about it. And secondly, when you're happy, when you're having enough, well, don't let money. If you want to let money rule your life for a while, that's fine. And if you're satisfied with it for your entire life, that's fine. But if you're not, well, then look into other areas. I would say most people are not becoming happy by having more money.
Yep. Once you can kind of meet the basic, needs of, you have an apartment or a place that you can, pay the rent for or buy, right? And you have food and water and stuff like that. Having more money doesn't make you happier, right? It's just, it's there. Yeah. In a lot of cases, it makes people more miserable because they think you should have more money, so they pursue that more, resulting in likely more stress in their life, more worries, more, Most of the time, it's not the answer.
Yeah, ask yourself what makes you happy. And I would say most people that I know, they have more problems with having too many things than having too few things. Yeah. So having too many things is drenching their life, and it makes them almost drown, and they can't keep focus on what's important for them because they need to take care of all. I don't know how many people who are building huts and houses just to keep things that they are not using and put a lot of time and money and effort into storing things that are never used.
Yeah, that's
why?
Ridiculous when you think about it, but it happens.
Yeah, go and hug your children instead. Yeah. Smile with them.
You will remember that way more than all the rest. Yeah. Another couple of questions that I have, let's move from money to another topic. So let's switch gears. I'm more, wanting to ask you a few questions on doing what you love. And I do know quite some people in their late 20s who are struggling with the following, and it is actually finding their calling in life, or figuring out why they're here or what they want to do here. It seems like that's a recurring struggle with some people. I'm wanting to know, like, what has helped you in finding your calling in life, and just what are your thoughts about finding your calling in life?
I want to believe that every person has a calling, and it can be one calling. It can also be several callings. So I don't think that you need to find one thing. It can be several at a time, or it can be, for me, it has been, first it was one thing, then it was another, then it was a
You can
third.
change too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So don't try to fit into a pattern, because maybe there is no pattern, but to find your own calling. For me, I'm introverted, so maybe this doesn't go for everyone, but for me, it has been about listening inside. Like I say in the TEDx talk, that's where the music is.
Yeah.
And what is my music? What makes me thrive? What makes me dance? What gives me joy? And for instance, running for me wasn't a purpose so much until the Iran run, but then it had a bigger purpose. The purpose, it gave me joy. That's it. And I liked doing it. And since I liked doing it, I did it more and more and more. And that's what I call the music. If it gives you joy to do something, and if it gives you meaning to do it, well, then do it. That's your music. And to find your music, in my mind, you need to listen to your inside, not what someone else is telling or whatever. You know what's good for you. You know what you like. So do that and do it. And I think maybe one key is that I never thought that I would be a world record runner or running through Iran or anything. I didn't plan that from when I did my first run. I did run because it was fun. That's it. And so I think that's having fun in each and every moment. It doesn't mean, of course, I'm suffering sometimes during an ultramarathon run, and it's tough and I'm tired and so on. But in the total, it gives me joy. It gives me meaning. And so I think, finding meaning and finding joy in what you're doing exactly right now, not that it's supposed to give something in the future. That might be a key of finding your own calling.
Did you actually struggle a lot in the past with like finding or being able to listen to yourself, or finding your calling in life? Was that something that you struggled with when you were younger?
I think I've been listening a lot to my parents, to friends, to people in my surrounding. What do they want from me? How do I make them happy so they give me a pat on my head saying good girl? And even before they asked me to do what I did. So yeah, I've been struggling. I'm gonna do that sometimes now also, even though I'm 50.
But you've been able to set yourself free from that.
Yeah, because and it's my life. I'm responsible for it. If I feel happy or if I don't, well, if I feel happy, then it's fine, so to say. But if I don't, then what can I do about it? Maybe I can't affect everything around me, but I can maybe affect a few things. And And for instance, when I was supposed to run through Iran, my sister called me and she asked me, how do you expect me to take care of mom's and dad's sorrow if you never come back? That's a pretty tough question.
That's a tough question. Damn.
And I don't blame her saying it because she was worried.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I say that I'm responsible for my life, I'm responsible for my life. I'm not responsible for my sister's worries. And I'm definitely not responsible for what kind of things that she's saying that my mom and dad is saying, but not to me. I mean, there has to be boundaries between me and my sister and my family. And because I wanted so strongly to run through Iran to create more trust and to work against, to counteract fear. And what my sister was expressing was fear.
Yep.
And I love my sister, and I know she loves me. And of course, I want to take care of her as much as I want to. And I think this was also an expression of love. She didn't want to lose me. So what I did was, okay, I still want to do this because this is my dream. This is my life. But I can make you feel as safe as I can while doing this. So I did a lot of, I did get a spot that was tracking me. She could find me on a world, what's it called, a password protected web page. So she could always knew where I was. And she was having contact with the embassy and with friends in Iran and so on. So I think I did a lot of arrangement to make her feel safe. And I also did blog every day. So then she knew that I was safe. Yeah, I forgot your question now and why I...
that you struggled a lot with finding your calling in life, but what you were just sharing is that you don't, you have responsibility to kind of live your life, right? But you can be definitely influenced by others and kind of live what they kind of want. You can still keep the other people in mind, by looking for a solution, how, you could put them at ease or whatever, but don't be stopped either, right? By what other people might want you to do.
Not if it's important to me.
Yeah, exactly. Not if it's important for you and if you feel that's your calling.
Yeah, exactly. If it doesn't matter, then fine.
Yeah. Okay, so changing directions in life can be very scary. It's a very scary step. One that a lot of people are also held back by because they're, for example, comfortable in the workplace that they currently work in. And they don't want to confront whatever might come if they don't work there anymore. But what helped you actually to change? And maybe this question will bring up kind of something that you've already shared. But what helped you to not be stopped by fear? And to change directions in life. I think you already did share quite a lot on this, but I'm just gonna throw the question in there. If you feel there's something more that you could share to someone who is too scared to do something in life, even though they feel somewhere that they want to do it, what could you suggest to someone who is too afraid to do something but wants to do it?
There's actually lots of things. For me, it was very important to take I did take a decision once in my life that, I've been scared for a lot of things. I've been scared of hurting others. I've been scared of not being good enough and failing and whatever. But I got tired of being scared. And when I was setting my first world record prior to that, I was terribly afraid of failing. And then I had a thought that, okay, I was, I don't remember how old I was then. It was 2000, I don't remember. Well, whatever. And I was thinking, is my life going to be run by my fears? Is that what I want to define me as a person in my life? Hell no. I want to be defined by what I want to achieve. It doesn't matter if I achieve it or not, but I want to try, because the only failure that exists in my world is not trying. So if I want to set a world record and I try and I fail, okay, I tried. I'm successful. Great. Wonderful. I did try. And maybe I tried in the wrong direction. Maybe I can do it better. I mean, like I said, there's things I did well and things that I can do better. So maybe I just need to improve how I'm doing it. So taking a decision, conscious decision, was a key for me. But then it doesn't mean that I'm not scared. I'm still scared. And handling fear, what I usually use is slicing things up into small parts. For instance, like I did with the round run, I did write down everything that I was afraid of. It was 22 different things, and I tried to write them as detailed as possible. And when I see, I mean, if I just look at the entire picture of my fear, and it feels overwhelming. But if I look at, okay, I'm afraid of being bitten by a dog that has rabies and that I will die. Okay, what can I do about this? Well, I can get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, check on that one.
Right. Yeah.
And when I write everything down into small details, then I can see, okay, what can I do to prevent this from happening? And I also realized that, okay, I'm afraid that I will not have the media attention as I hope. Okay. And if it doesn't happen, well, no one is injured. No one is hurt. That's not a problem. I mean, okay, it's a bit sad that I invested my energy and nothing happened, but that's it. I still probably had a wonderful run. So slicing down the fear into small parts, and the smaller parts, the better. So you can it's easier to handle the small parts. And also knowing that fear is just a feeling. And what happens to feelings? They will pass. So, and I say that I make a difference between worries and with fears. Worries are things that might happen in the future, or maybe things that I might have happened in the past but didn't happen. And worries are good in the sense that, okay, if I'm worried that I will be hit by a car when I'm running through Iran on a big road, well, what can I do to take care of that worry? Well, I can put a big orange flag on my baby jogger so that people will see me. So considering worries as a means of preparation, then worries are helpful. They are not dangerous. And Eckhart Tolle is defining fear as something that happens now, in the present. And one thing that I use also is, okay, right now I feel scared, I feel worried or something. But if I look around in the room exactly where I am right now, okay, how many things are really dangerous in here? Okay, none. And knowing that our brain are designed for surviving, which means that our brains are 5 times more sensitive for fear than for safety and for love. That gives a good focus on, okay, if I'm worried, that might not have something to do with reality. It might just be my brain who wants me to survive, which is a good thing. But I still feel this worry. Okay, well, just take a deep breath. Take 3 deep breaths and look around. What exactly in this moment is life-threatening? And usually it's nothing. And if it's something, then you probably have the ability to handle it. Especially if you don't worry too much, because worry causes a lot of energy loss.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's also a mental thing to try to not spend energy on worrying. Instead of, okay, is this something that's present right now? Yes. Can I do something about it? Yes. Okay, let's do that. Is this something that's not present now? Okay, then don't worry. And if it's something I want to do that I worry about, well, what can you do to avoid that it will happen? So many things. And also knowing that fear usually is there for 90 seconds.
Yeah,
If you,
yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. If you can bear that feeling for 90 seconds, and then don't repeat that to yourself. I mean, usually fear, it comes back, the same fear, again, again, and again. But usually it's not more than 90 seconds. So if you can stand being afraid for 90 seconds, count to 90 and take a deep breath. Maybe you're okay.
Yeah, actually, like for example, with people with an anxiety or problems or something, often when they would go to a therapist to help them, and they would do like exposure therapy, so the therapist would actually go with the person to I don't know, if they're anxious of too many people or something in a mall. Often, if they go alone, they react directly. They don't stand there for just a few seconds. They directly react to what they're feeling, which is fear, and they run away. But with the therapist, they would actually go there and actually would try to just stand there for a bit longer than they usually would.
Okay.
And like you said, because it's also like your amygdala, like it's part of your brain, right, that immediately reacts to something from the past, which then triggers fear. But if you're there a bit longer, that fear would kind of like go from, instead of up, go a little bit down, because your body's like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
adjusting. And yeah, a lot of people don't even get to that realization because they react immediately and run away or whatever with fear, right? They don't face it. And when you face it, you can handle it most of the time better than you thought.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's helpful.
yeah. So count to 90 seconds definitely can be helpful. Lastly, what I want to talk about with you is a little bit of about confidence. If you think also about wealth, I feel like confidence is having more confidence, being able to level up that skill gives also more freedom, and with that, a kind of wealth. First of all, what was something in the past that you were completely like not confident in that you are confident in today? Is there something?
Yeah. Talking in front of people.
Talking in front of people. Yeah. I think that's one that a lot of people have, but yes, definitely. Okay.
Yeah.
Then basically, just I'm curious then to know, like, how have you gotten confidence in that? What were some steps?
Actually, I think it's like going to the mall. I exposed me a lot to it. And well, like I said before, also I practice a lot before a lecture, but I am a lecturer today, and I think actually I'm a good lecturer. So I did practice a lot. I did expose myself to that, but also I was thinking about I'm always, well, I would say a bit scared before I'm entering the stage.
You feel some fear?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, but
always.
That's a healthy dose of stress, probably, right?
Yeah. Right now, it's yeah, that's where the level is. It's not. I wouldn't say fear. Actually, I feel a level of stress.
Yeah, stress. Yeah.
And the way I handle it is that I usually start my lectures with a scene where I am allowed to be scared. So because then I can be scared on stage. So it's mainly because then I've been scared those 90 seconds, and then I'm fine. So then I can continue and do it. And also I do I do breathing is something really important, and just take a deep breath and I do like that a lot of times before I enter the stage, and then I'm better off.
Exactly that exercise also with your body of like raising your hands.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you come to that one actually?
It was a coach who taught me that. He was working in a theater. So, but sorry, once again, I forgot your original question.
Oh, don't worry about it. I actually asked something that you were afraid of, and your stage fright, or talking in front of people, and what were some actual steps that you took to get more confident in it?
Mm. Yeah, and it was, I mean, yeah, and I remember maybe one better example is what I almost drowned twice when I was a child.
Oh,
So
whoa.
I was afraid
That's
of water. Yeah,
wow. Okay.
that's scary.
Yeah.
But I somehow I got that dream that I wanted to do whitewater paddling in rapids. And that's kind of scary, especially if you almost drown twice. So I wasn't a good swimmer because I'm afraid of water. And somehow it seems like this fear is it's still affecting my body. So if I'm swimming like this. This is my head and this is my feet. My feet are on the ground in a swimming pool.
To be able to
Uh,
touch the bottom directly, or
I'm not floating. I don't know why.
okay.
but
Uh-huh.
but when I wanted to learn how to do whitewater kayaking, I in rapids, I first swam 200 meters in a pool. Then I swam 300 meters, and I said, "Well done." Then I swam 500 meters another week, and well done. And I continued swimming longer and longer and longer distances just to feel comfortable with, okay, if I'm in a panic situation, I will be able to swim. I know I can swim 3,000 meters. So that was what I did. And then I did submit to a course in kayaking, and it was in a swimming pool inside with two people who were able to pull me up from the water if I was in an accident. so so I learned how to kayak in a swimming pool inside, and then we went outside. And then so this is once again making small steps. I mean, the challenge from being afraid of water to do whitewater rafting or kayaking was too big. So instead, I did the challenge in small steps. And that really helped me.
In the end, the way, to get more comfortable with anything is kind of just that process, right? Of taking very small steps first and then slowly building it up. And then you basically can get confidence in anything almost that you want.
Yeah, and that's the way I did. I know that there are other ways too. I know one woman, she saw me, she demonstrated for me. I mean, if you're afraid of something, then just do it. Just jump straight into it and do it, because then you won't be afraid anymore. So that's also a way of doing it.
For some people, I guess, yes. For
Yeah,
others, it
not
might
for
be
me.
too much.
Yeah, for me it is.
You know, this is a part of, if you do or try things in life, this is going to be a huge part of it. We've talked a bit about it too, but failure is always around the corner when you want to, go for a big dream or a goal or whatever, right? Want to go for something. You are really good, and you already shared some on it, on your view on failure, but you're really good at, being okay with failing. And I think it's an essential skill to be able to become at least better at, to be okay with failing and to have a different kind of viewpoint on it. But just wanted to know, like, first of all, like, what does failure mean to you? And also, how have you gotten comfortable with failing?
Mm. Well, first, I mean, let me take an example. I did a lecture once. It was for a manager that I really liked. And the audience was 100 persons. And I didn't do a good job. And I felt it while I was standing there that this is not working.
How did you not do a good job on it? Like,
They looked at me like, what are you saying? And you can feel it. I mean, the energy
sure.
is not flowing in the room. And I
Yeah.
mean, people look bored.
Mm-hmm.
And it was awfully painful. So in that sense, I felt that I failed her and I really liked her. So it was painful. And I didn't do a good job. That's true. And at the same, yeah, I can also see that it wasn't the very best circumstances. That's also a fact. But anyhow, I didn't do a good job. So for 1 week, that was very painful. And I felt bad. But then I realized, but hey, this organization, the target with this lecture was that they are going to become world record holders in their area. And they were not interested. They were not there. So how is this manager going to work with these 100 people to become world records holder if they are not interested? Okay, I didn't do good, but at the same time, they were not interested. So I went back to this manager and said, you know what? I know I failed you. I didn't do a good job. And I think you have a problem in your organization. So it ended up that I was allowed to work together with her organization and work with them to find their motivation, which was extremely learning. And I learned a lot, and it was a lot of fun. And we did a good job. And it turned out later, when that organization was laid off, the two groups I had been working with were having a much more positive attitude and much more, enthusiastic than the others. So I think I did something good together with them. But the learning from this is, okay, failure in the sense, failure is never permanent. I didn't do a good job, but I learned something from it. I learned how to make lectures better, but I also learned that if I face my failure, I can find new opportunities to treat so-called failures as learnings. That's the key. Yeah. And also, like I said before, the only failure is wanting to do something and not trying. Yeah. And I think lying on my bed when I'm going to die, when I'm hopefully 95 years old or something, and thinking, oh, I should have done that, but I never dared to. That's, in my mind, the only failure. All the other failures you can repair, you can learn from, you can do something about it. But you can't do something about regretting the way you lived your life when you're about to die. And we don't know when we're going to die. So maybe I won't be 90, maybe I will be 52 or 51, who knows?
Using that as a way to live more can definitely help with if you fail at something, to not just sit with it and be like, all right, I failed, but I don't want to live, with the thought that that was it, when I'm old, that I failed, just that let me try, to do something or use it. It's all about just how can you use failure for something more than just failure alone.
Yeah, and let me point out there that there are, I wouldn't say failures, but there are things that are very hard to do something about. For instance, say my dad is having dementia, as I told you, and he's 85 years old. And let's say that I never told him I loved him, and then he dies. That's hard to repair. But there are ways to handle that as well, and that's self-compassion. So, okay, if I didn't tell him what I wanted to tell him, okay, that hurts. That's painful. But then okay, Kristina, you know what? Not everyone is telling their parents that they love them. There's so much about self-compassion on the internet and ways to handle yourself when you are really suffering from something you did or something that you didn't do, and that can really help. I know, for instance, I heard that the highest level of stress is, for instance, a father who put his baby on the ground, 4-month-old baby, in this thing that you have in the car, and then he backed out the car from his garage and he drove over his baby. That's, that's really painful. That's really hard to handle. But even those situations can be handled. And I guess, you're working with trauma, so I guess you know lots about it.
This was actually the last question that I had for you. I don't know if there's on, living a happy and meaningful life, if there's anything more that you wanted to talk about, or any question that that you hope that I asked that I didn't ask that you still want to touch on?
I just want to say one thing, and I've been thinking about happy and meaningful, and they kind of goes together, but they sometimes don't also.
Okay.
I mean, in the sense that, sometimes I get those, like a rush of pure happiness. I mean, just when I feel that the entire body is like filled with bubbles, and it feels like I'm going to fly to the sky and never come back. And it's just, whoa, you know the feeling. Yeah, and for me, that's happiness. And that happens, it happens here and it happens there, but it doesn't happen permanently throughout life. It's just small seconds here and there. And that's happiness for me. But happiness in terms of living a meaningful life, that's kind of more satisfying, fulfillment, that kind of
deeper.
Yeah, it's more deeper. And that doesn't mean that I'm feeling like filled with bubbles, but it means that even if life is tough, and if I'm suffering, I still feel fulfillment, and I still feel meaning. And I just wanted to mention that difference, and because I don't think it's possible to be happy in that bubbling way of being happy the entire life. Every second.
I agree. Yeah, and maybe some people have the expectation that they kind of want that to be happy, that euphoric, high of happiness all the time. Well, that's not possible. The ups
I don't think so.
and downs of being super happy and super unhappy, they come and go, primarily you would say that, right?
Yeah.
But it's more about like contentment, or about finding meaning that's deeper, and finding happiness in meaning.
Yeah, exactly. And that's possible to have the entire time, I would say.
So I still have one final end question that I ask all my guests. This is one that I also asked you 3 years ago. So I'm curious to ask it again. The answer might be different, but that's totally fine, right? That's kind of the point of this question. But first of all, before I ask that question, that final end question, where's the best place for people, to check you out, or where you wouldn't want people, where do you want to send people to?
My homepage, palten.se.
Yep.
It's both available in Swedish and English, more limited in English, unfortunately. But also, if you Google Alone Through Iran, 1144 Miles of Trust, you find the documentary and the trailer. And the book that I wrote about my run through Iran, it's available in Swedish, Dutch, German, Spanish, Persian, Slovenian, Czech. Not English, unfortunately.
Not English, all right, but many other languages.
I don't like that. I would have loved to see it in English, but you can see there's a documentary. It's available on Amazon.com. So if you search Amazon.com for Alone Through Iran, 1144 Miles of Trust, and of course, you find me on Facebook and Instagram as well.
So for everyone listening, all that will be linked up in the show notes. So your social media page, your website, the documentary, which I can highly recommend. You can find there. So the final end question, Kristina, for you. From everything that you have seen, experienced, lived and learned in your life, what is the one thing that you know to be true? And you can make this as long or as short as you want.
It's very hard to say what is true and what is reality, but I think that we create our own reality. I would say that is true, in the sense, I don't create the surroundings around me, but I create the reality inside my mind. And what I create inside my mind creates part of the reality outside me. For instance, if I would go running through Iran with a big knife like this,
Yeah.
I guess reality around me would have been much more different
Sure.
than from what I expect. But my decision was to run through Iran because I wanted to believe in friendship, in trust, in love among people. And as a consequence, I decided to run through Iran just like this, no weapons, nothing to defend myself with. Because if I have a weapon, then I'm not showing trust. And since I was vulnerable, then everyone around me wanted to take care of me. So in that sense, I think we create our reality. And it was amazing to see how the people I met, they treated me so incredibly kind. And I think it depends on their own kindness and that they are in that way, but also that I met them with trust and in my own vulnerability. So we create our own reality.
Kristina, thank you so much for doing this again. I mean,
thanks.
Was a real pleasure actually to talk to you again in depth like this. So yeah, thanks.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Jellis, and thanks for doing this and for doing the IPS project. It's a wonderful, very meaningful project.
Thank you. And there we have it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Kristina Paltén. To find all the resources Kristina mentioned in this episode, check out the show notes located in the description of this episode, or go directly to innerpicturestories.com/podcast and search for Kristina. If you would like to spend even more time with Kristina, then check out her first interview on the IPS podcast, which is episode 013, Kristina Paltén, ultra runner, alone through Iran, 1,144 miles of trust, prejudice, and human kindness. The link to the interview can also be found in the description of this episode, as well as in the show notes. Last but not least, if you truly want to spend some one-on-one time up close and personal with Kristina, I highly recommend you check out the online course she made for the Learning Academy of the IPS project. In her course, Kristina teaches everything that she has learned about confidence and goal setting over the years, from setting 2 world records, being the first woman to run alone through Iran, delivering 2 TEDx talks, and countless other achievements. A link to the course can be found in the description of this episode, and there you can read the full course description, read the reviews from other students, and watch some preview lessons to see if the course might be something for you or not. If after enrollment you decide the course is not for you, we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So in the end, you have absolutely nothing to lose. Again, the link to Kristina Paltén's course can be found in the description of this episode and in the show notes. With that, I wish you a pleasant day, and I hope to welcome you again on another episode, another journey here on the IPS Podcast. This is your host, Jellis Vaas, signing off.